Mr. International Coordinator, I'm delighted to offer my inaugural address. According to the conference program, which says that I ought to address the topic, India's Diaspora Connection and Partnership with India. In doing so, I start by greeting everyone. Kemcho, Namaste, Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal. I want to acknowledge this fine facility in which we meet and thereby pay respects to the Gujarat University, under whose auspices we meet this afternoon, which enables me to acknowledge you, Vice-Chancellor, for your warm welcome to everyone this afternoon, and to underline the importance that education and research will play in the continuance of relationships between people of Indian origin in this country and those 25 million plus of us who live in various parts of the world. I think the forging of that relationship is important, and your championing of it as Vice-Chancellor of this university is equally important. I acknowledge you, President Ashok Ramsaran, because you are to so many of us the voice and the point of connection with GOPIO. For so many years, you have been a diligent correspondent, be that by email or letters or telephone calls. I want to acknowledge the hours of work that you must every year put into keeping up the connection, which is, I may say, to those of us who live far away, hugely important. Ashok, you have been a real friend to people of Indian origin, and it gives me great pleasure to acknowledge that as I commence my address. In my part of the world, it is important for any speaker, as he or she commences their address, to establish their place to stand. I am a person of Indian origin, a PIO as it is called. This country has a lovely tendency to use letters instead of words, PIO, NRI, and so forth. You will be familiar with that. You can read newspaper headlines in this country, and everybody knows that CJ has talked with CM and there is some result. But I am a PIO, and like my colleague and friend Umesh Chandra, I am a New Zealander whose parents and grandparents migrated from this country to Fiji. And thence from Fiji, people have remigrated to countries like New Zealand, Australia, the United States, Canada, and therefore I am second removed, if you like, a person whose grandparents migrated but whose parents also migrated. The important thing in relating that is that the strand of connection with India has remained. And like many things, thoughts of this kind have been better put by others. Together with Ashok Ramsaran, my wife Susan and I had the privilege of being present at the first Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, which occurred in New Delhi in 2003. And one of the initial receivers of a Samman Award from the President in that year was the former Commonwealth Secretary-General, Sir Sridath Rampal. And anyone who was there will remember the wonderful speech that he gave in receiving his Samman Award. And he described his family and upbringing in words, and I cannot do justice to them, but other than to refer to them from my memory. He said, there are people who are like flowers that have fallen from the tree and who eventually have been carried by the waters of the oceans to other places, and those seeds, those flowers, have taken root in other countries, and they have developed individual and different personalities. However, their essential character, their relationship, their DNA, as someone put it at our seminar yesterday afternoon, remains that of this country, India. And therefore, it is by that fashion that I establish my place to stand here before you this afternoon. I am proud of my Indian heritage and am pleased to have the opportunity every so often to say that explicitly. I want to add three things to our discourse this afternoon under the title. The first is to say that maintaining the linkage is important. This matter of us meeting is important, and hopefully there will be further and other meetings as have occurred in the past. And we now have the benefit of streaming, we have the benefit of social media, we have the benefit of electronically assisted communication, which makes our maintaining linkages really important. But I think, as I will go on to say, that it is fine for those of us who have the capacity and the financial resources to be able to come to India and engage in these pleasant events. Beyond us and in all of our countries, there are thousands and thousands of people who cannot do that. And the challenge to make connection with them and to imbue them with the same spirit as draws us together needs to be conveyed to them. So maintaining linkages is my first point. The second point is to record that GOPIO has been at it for a very long time. Now, I can say that without anyone saying or gaining the impression or feeling that I am saying this for a self-serving reason. I am not a member of GOPIO. I have watched its continuance with interest, and as Ashok and others know, I have encouraged it to proceed, but I have never been a member of it. But I think it is worth recording here as we meet that far before the time of Pravasi Bharatiya, far before the time of OCI and PIO and a Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs, GOPIO was there as a nimble, intelligent, ginger group endeavouring to draw attention to the possibilities of connection with people of Indian origin, and I think GOPIO deserves warm approbation for that. The third and final point that I want to make is that happily India's profile has changed in the last decade or so. The Singhvi report that undertook a survey of people of Indian origin living all over the world led to a decision of the Vajpayee government to host the first Pravasi Bharatiya Divas event, and happily, on a non-partisan, non-political basis, the government of Dr. Manmohan Singh carried that forward during much of the decade that has followed. And it is really good to see that the present government, The government of Sri Narendra Modi has taken up the Pravasi mantle again, and it is very clear that the warmth of welcome provided by him, his ministers, and indeed the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Anand Patel, it is clear that India's profile has changed and there is warmth exhibited towards people of Indian origin, and it can be seen that there is great potential for investment, for philanthropy, for tourism, for education, for all of these things to be not only maintained but advanced further in the future. I leave the podium with a challenge. The challenge is to draw attention to things that lie in the immediate future. And may I say that the agenda which has been provided for us this afternoon is an excellent piece of evidence that a group of intelligent people at the beginning of 2015 saw what was important to be debated, the economic partnership, the matter of women, youth and cultural connections being involved in the ongoing relationships. All of those things are hugely important and need to be addressed. The diaspora consists of 25 and approaching many more than 25 million people, and in her article accompanying the Pravasi material that we received yesterday and the day before yesterday, an article by the Minister of External Affairs refers to the diaspora living in 110 countries. So the canvas is very large. I have to say, whilst it is fine to speak euphorically about the connection, there are many people in many of those countries who still think of India as a backward country, still think that India has yet to join the modern world. And that is a challenge which is in front of this country and those who have responsibility for communications with this country. There is a better story that can be told, but on the other hand, one's imagination and one's feelings towards human beings are greatly challenged by coming to India and seeing people in much more humble and much less well-off conditions than that to which we are used, for example, in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, or the United Kingdom. I think the last thing that I wish to say in my challenge, and I've already foreshadowed this as I spoke before, and that is to say that it is not only those who are well off enough to be able to support coming to India and to take part in these events that need to be reached. It is those people who will possibly never have that opportunity who need to be reached, and use of media, use of whatever means that are available will be helpful. I want to end by referring to the article by Her Excellency Minister Sushma Swaraj in the Pravasi magazine, where she said that in the end, India has a wonderful package of things to offer not only to its diaspora but to the world. She speaks of India's embracing of democracy, diversity, tolerance and non-violence. And I think if those four things are emphasised and can be in the centre of the core, as it were, this matter of maintaining relations, which I of course advocate and warmly support will be easier than otherwise. Mr. Coordinator, I began an inaugural address conscious that there are many people to follow me. I was, in one of my careers beforehand, a trial lawyer, and I have been looking intently at you as I speak. And I'm conscious that at the moment I still hold your attention. But as all lawyers know, that when you are conscious of that, that is the time to stop, because it is far better to stop while people still appear to be exhibiting interest in listening to what you have to say. May I close by thanking everyone for the warmth of the welcome to Susan and myself, to wish GOPIO well in the future, and to assure the organisation, Ashok, to assure the organisation of continuing support in the years that are to come. The way in which one finishes a speech like this in my country, New Zealand, is to say kia ora, which means good luck, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for your kind attention.
Now I can be seen by this side too.